So this lesson is going to be applying the finishing touches to the website that we've been designing, where we're going to apply the media queries, which is going to allow the website to stack differently on the smaller size screens. So when the screen gets less than 600 pics, we're going to be updating some of the styling properties. We'll be stacking the A side beneath the article area, the main article area, as well as the footers are going to stack. And we can see that whenever we're making it on the larger size screens, that it goes back to the original design. The smaller size screens, the images go to full size. Some of the text will adjust to be smaller. We're removing some of the padding between the elements and making some adjustments to the way the page elements are behaving. So that's all coming up in this lesson. Let's make some final updates on the web page. So going down to where we're setting the media queries within the styling, and this is where we can update how the page behaves on different size screens. So setting it, and we're going to be using the screen and setting for the max width of 800 pics. So there's going to be a difference between the two sizes. So on the smaller size screens, set a background color of blue, and then we'll update this afterwards. So on the smaller size screens, the media queries are going to take effect and overwrite the current styling properties. And then on the larger screens, the media queries aren't going to be running. So this is where we can make some additional updates to the page properties and going through what we want to update. So we can update within the wrapper the way that the wrapper is displaying on the different size screens. So we don't have to keep the grid. We can update the gap to be 0. So on the smaller size screens, there's no gap. On the larger size screens where we have more space, we do have the gap. We can also shrink down the heading there. So let's set them all to be auto. So set all 4 to be automatic. So whatever amount of space that we have allocated, that's the amount of space that we're going to be setting for those. Within the header, let's update, and we're going to add some padding around the header, because now we see that it's whenever we remove the spacing for the grid, then we're right on the bottom there, so we don't have any spacing underneath. So let's add some padding around the entire content, and we'll do 10 pics of padding. So on the larger size screens, we're not going to see it. On the smaller size screens, it's adjusting and it's taking up less space. Also for the images within the article, let's make them 100%, because on the smaller size screens, then we've got, we want to make the images really big. So selecting the image, and we'll remove the float, so it'll be none. And set the display to be block. And we can set the width to be 100%. So take up the available 100%. And this is also depending on what we're using for the images. I'm going to set the margin to be 0 and also set the border to be 0. So on the larger size screens, it removes that thumbnail field for it. The smaller size screens, or larger size screens, it keeps it inline. And then on the smaller screens, it just takes up all of the available space that we have for the content. And we might also want to stack the columns. So maybe we want to move the A side down. So for the wrapper A side, select that, and we're going to allow it to take the full available width. And for the columns, we can set them just to be 1 full across. And then for the A side, the wrapper, set the grid column to be 1, 3. So that will move the A side below the main content area within the article. And we don't actually have to update that value, as it'll automatically still stack. And then again, depending on how you prefer to present the content, you can make some different adjustments as needed for your website and how it behaves on the smaller size screens. And if we want to set this to be 6/4, so even just for even smaller screens, you can set the different max widths there to apply the properties on the smaller screens as the screen size adjusts. Also going to make the main article content to be 1 EM. So update the font size. So that will shrink the main content area slightly. Make it in line with the article content. And you can even make it even smaller on the smaller size screens. So let's see what that looks like on the smaller size screens. And that just shrinks it down quite a bit more. I'm also going to stack the footers. So remove out the 2 columns on the footers. So where we were setting the columns, the template columns for the footer, let's select that and apply some property styling to those as well. And we don't have to set anything else, as now it's on the 1 FR. So when we do shrink the page down, they're going to automatically stack. So we've got them full across when we're setting the columns to be full across on the smaller size screens. So go ahead and make adjustments as needed in order to create your own version of this website.